Roughly 20,000 years ago in Western Europe, the Solutrean people thrived during the last glacial maximum, a period of intense cold temperatures and a harsh ice age environment that was once dominated by open steppes and tundra. The territory of the Solutreans covered interior western France to the Iberian Peninsula, in which they have thrived along the coast of Spain. The diets of the Solutreans varied, depending on where they stayed. They shared the landscape with many animals, such as the famous woolly mammoth, ibex, musk oxen, and most importantly, animals such as reindeer and horse, in which they are most notably known for in their hunting. Which brings us to the first important site of the Solutreans, the Rock of Solutre. It was once thought that this site was a horse jump, where the Solutrean hunters would chase the horses off the cliff, and where they would finally meet their brutal death at the bottom. Archaeologists once believed this to be true, since they found up to 100,000 horse bones. Archaeologists at the time compared it to similar situations in North American kill sites, in which the Native Americans would drive off herds of bison in the same way. However, recently this was proven wrong, yet instead it is now thought that these hunters ambushed these horses on their route, waiting to strike them behind enormous rocks near the base of the cliff. Reindeers were hunted this way as well, as the reindeer teeth found here indicate the site was mainly used in the springtime. Analysis shows that the animals were killed in situ. At the site they were butchered with marrow and brains consistently extracted for nutritional purposes. Some were even burned, and it is suggested that the hunters smoked the meat to preserve the enormous amount of meat they harvested here. This method of hunting can be considered the original fast food drive-through. Weapons they more than likely would have used to hunt with were spear throwers, in which is basically an extension of your arm to throw a spear farther than you would without a throwing lever. Although, spears such as javelins may have been thrown without a spear thrower by skilled hunters. In fact, the oldest evidence of the atlatl, or universally known as the spear thrower, comes from the Solutrean period. A spear thrower hook was found in Grotte du Placard, or in English, Placard Cave. The hook found here would have served to hold the spear dart in place and was made of reindeer antler. Other examples of spear throwers have been found in other caves and typically were made out of bone. Placard Cave is a significant site because it has preserved many artifacts from this period, giving us much information on how these ancient hunter-gatherers lived. At Placard Cave, a rock engraving of a horse and antler was discovered here. This engraving and other finds that were mentioned goes to show that the horse and reindeer were incredibly important animals to these people. Their lives revolved around them, and these people would have had to follow the seasons and locations that these migrating animals would have been affected by. The Rock of Solutre is just one prime example of a sacred hunting ground that the hunters would have used every spring to feed their families and survive in the cold ice age. So, while we are still on the topic of rock art, it is worth mentioning that although violence of human warfare is pretty rare in the Stone Age record, there is a depiction of a man stabbed by several spears. It was painted with red ochre, and it is located in the cave of Pec Merlet. Excuse my French. This may be the oldest painting in the world showing tribal warfare, but the painting could also represent a different interpretation. I like to personally think it could be a warning sign to nomads traveling through the area, and there were unfriendly people nearby who wouldn't mind ending your life. But that's just my fun way of looking at it. At Placard Cave, other fascinating things have been uncovered here by archaeologists. Unusual carved but beautiful artistic objects known as perforated batons were carved from antler or ivory, and common in Upper Paleolithic Europe. They are characterized by intricate designs and a drilled round hole at the end, and can range anywhere from 6 to 8 inches in length. The exact function is undecided, but it is thought that they may have been used for ceremonial purposes, spear throwers, or rope making. Some theories go as far as a dildo or a calendar. At Placard Cave, a magnificent perforated baton was found, originally thought to have depicted a fox, but it is now accepted as an ibex. The representation of this animal may have been another symbolic relationship that was intimate in their daily hunting and gathering lives. Perhaps the animal designs were for symbolic meaning and decorations, but the baton itself served maybe not just one, but multiple functional uses. Bone needles were sewn in hides to make warm clothing, as well as spearheads made from bone proved to be very durable material compared to stone. Which brings us next to the bread and butter of what gives the Solutrean complex their identity. For the first time in the Stone Age, no other culture has knapped stone, like they would until the techniques were rediscovered later in history. The Solutrean stone tool complex was distinct compared to previous cultures in the techniques they used to produce their tools and projectile points. Solutrean flint knappers crafted very fine symmetrical bifaces using lithic reduction percussion and pressure flaking methods. Using tools such as hardwood or antler batons and soft stone hammers. With these advanced techniques, they were able to make beautiful leaf-shaped points, known as laurel leaf points and willow leaf points. They are characterized by how thin they are, and the long flake removals done on each side. Leaf points vary in size. Many points are 6.5 centimeters long and are suggested to have been hafted and used on spear darts and spear tips. Then there are some phenomenal ones that have been found that measure 23 and even 35 centimeters long. The Volgu cache is an amazing example of these large symmetrical worked bifaces. A total of at least 15 leaf points have been found in this cache in Volgu, France. Analysis shows that the edges of these bifaces are fresh and they have not been damaged or used. Where the Volgu cache was discovered, no debitage was found. All the leaf points are from the same flint source, which does not occur at the Volgu cache site, but its nearest source has been traced 150 kilometers or 93 miles downstream on the Loire River. This means they found high-quality flint 93 miles away, worked the stone elsewhere, and cached it in the Volgu spot. Traveling long distances for flint was not uncommon for the Solutreans, nor in the entirety of the Stone Age in general. Another example in Portugal shows that in the Coa Valley, flint varieties used in Solutrean do not occur locally, and shows they may have traveled up to 155 miles. In Cantabria, Solutreans in Altamira and Las Caldas show that 58% of all stone tools are made from flint more than 62 miles away. This hike was nothing for them. The Volgu cache may represent an early example of a flint knapper displaying his mastery of the skill. Since they were in fresh condition and given the measurement size of the points, they may have been used for ceremonial purposes or expression of artistic mastery. Leaf points such as these takes great skill and a few hours to make. Every flake removal took a lot of calculating and methodical approaches to get it to this desired aesthetic shape. Here is a modern reproduction knapped by Alina Moos of lithic art in Germany. This leaf point is made from Bergerac chert, which historically Upper Paleolithic knappers sourced this type of chert that is located in the Bergerac region of France. These ancient knappers would heat treat their stone in a fire to temperatures of 250 to 350 degrees before working it. The purpose of heat treating makes the chert easier to remove flakes more smoothly. Another innovation was the use of shouldered points that go back to preceding cultures such as the Gravettian of Upper Paleolithic Europe and were even used in Saharan Africa. Shout out to Alina Moos once again for this phenomenal modern reproduction of a shouldered point. Shouldered points may have been used as knives or projectile points for spear darts. Unlike leaf points, shouldered points are not symmetrical and are given the name shouldered because of its distinct abrupt and a notch on one side, making them look curved or so-called shouldered. The shouldered part of the point was more than likely used to make hafting onto a handle smoother. Shouldered points were made using the large thin flakes from blade cores known as percussion flaking, and then they were made into their typical shape through a process called pressure flaking. So I've mentioned the technique where shouldered points come from, so this brings me on to the next topic. The other invention that spans the Upper Paleolithic is the use of stone blade technology, in which simple yet long sharp flakes were napped from a selected prepared core through direct or indirect percussion, and at a precise angle. To be considered a blade, it must be twice as long than it is wide. Blades can be continuously produced if the core they came from is maintained in a consistent fashion of flake removal to make uniformal blades. Blade cores would have been ideal for nomadic people such as the Solutreans, because they could have been easily portable and napped on the go when a blade or point was needed. As we have explored in this episode, the Solutreans were highly nomadic peoples that thrived in the coast of Western Europe to what is now known as mainland Spain and France. The Solutreans ate whatever walked the land and specialized in horse and reindeer hunting. They were experts in napping stone, most notably leaf points and shoulder points. Yet things would change generations later as the climate, environment, and cultures began to shift. The Solutreans would eventually disappear or integrate into a later culture who would lose some knowledge but also continue to carry some of their traditional skills. These descendants are the Magdalenian, and they haven't lost their taste for reindeers at all. This will become to be known as the Age of Reindeer. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment.